What's up, Twisted people? It's your girl here, Chauncey K. Robinson, aka Twisted Woman CKR. And yeah, we are talking. What are we talking? We are talking Titans, episode 11, season 3. The call is coming from inside the house. Thank you so much to all of you who are joining me in the live chat and those of you who are joining in the replay. I always appreciate talking stories with you all. And we have a lot to actually talk about. Titans is going towards the end of season 3. We waited over a year for this season, and it has been a journey for better or worse, depending on your perspective. And there are so many angles of this because I'm sure, as I've seen on the interwebs, that people have a lot of perspectives. I have perspectives as well, and I want to get into it with you all today. Jed Young, thanks for joining in the live chat, saying can't wait for this for sure. Icky, thanks for joining in the live chat. Hi and welcome. So we got to talk about it. What I want to first do is kind of give my overall thoughts, give a grade, and then kind of take it piece by piece what happened this episode, and then let's talk about, as many people do when you are starting to reach the end of a season for a show, that is most likely getting a season 4. I think it's been confirmed that Titans is getting a season 4. What do you want to see going forward? What are you tired of seeing going forward? And I'm sure if you've been on any of these previous live streams here, you know what I've been telling you I don't want to see more of, and what I want to see more of. So, we're going to talk about that as well. Icky saying a disappointment for me in terms of the season. And I don't think you're alone in that. And so let's talk about it. And I want you all, as I'm talking about my overall thoughts briefly, I want you to tell me if you could give this episode a grade, what would it be and why? Briefly, let me know. Or not briefly, let me know. What grade would you give this episode? Not the season so far, but this episode in particular. Because this episode, things happened, choices were made, and depending on what you think, not all the best kind of choices. Trant is joining us in the live chat. Trant is saying, what's up? Glad I caught another one live. Always a pleasure talking with you, Trant. Trant is already saying, I quit after this episode. Oh no, Trent, let's talk about it. We got to talk about it. Bannon is saying, I'm tired of seeing Dick Grayson wanting to not be part of a team. I want to see the rest of the team be a team. D for disappointing. Trent is already giving it a 2 out of 10. Solomon, thanks for joining us in the live chat. Solomon is saying this gets a 5. The episode was tonal whiplash, in my opinion. So let's talk about it. So, overall, this is going to surprise you all, I think. I am going to give this episode a B-. I am not going to give it a C. I think at this point I have seen worse on this season, on this show in general. I still contend that season 3 is light years ahead of season 2. I did not like season 2 at all. And I do still contend, even with some of the things that have happened, that season 3 is still better than season 2. I don't think it's better than season 1 for a number of reasons. One of those being because season 1 was a way more focused season on Titans, the source material, and Titans, the actual Titans. Season 3, although it's somewhat focused, is not focused on the thing that it should be focused on. And therein lies our issue with the way this story gets told. But overall, I give this episode a B-. I thought it had a balance of action and talking and dialogue. The dialogue wasn't always satisfactory. I know some people like episodes where there's a whole bunch of fighting, and if there's just a lot of talking, I've seen people say, oh, I don't like it because there's a lot of talking. I'm not one of those people. I think there needs to be more talking on this show. I think characters need to be having conversations because things are happening and we're being told that those things and those conversations are happening off screen or they're not happening at all. I would love for there to be more dialogue in this show at times because I just don't think the people who need to be talking are talking. And I know there's been some controversy with this episode, and I'm going to get into my reasons why I didn't dislike some of the changes that were happening, and why I didn't like some of the changes or some of the choices that were made by certain characters. So we're going to talk about it, but my overall grade is a B-. This is not the worst. I honestly, I know this might even be controversial. I think it's the third best of the season so far. Episode 3 was still, to me, the best episode of this season. I think I said episode 9 with Souls was like the secondary, kind of a distant second best episode. And I honestly think this one was. And that might be my bias, because I actually got some reveals when it came to Starfire, Cory, which I know people got feelings about that. So we're going to talk about that as well. But I actually was not angry, but we do have to talk about some of those things. It's not that and when I say I'm not angry, I don't mean that I agree with what they did. I'm saying that I don't think it's the most offensive thing this show has done. The bar is low, y'all. So given that this show has pulled some stuff, I'm going to honestly say, this ain't the worst they could have done in terms of that Cory twist, but we're going to get into why that is. Yeah, let's see what some of you all are saying. Trent is saying, I hated the Cory twist. We got to talk about it. Bannon is saying they need to talk to each other. Agreed. Jed is saying, I'm starting to think that Dick is blaming himself for everyone he loves either dying or getting killed. His parents, Garth, Jericho, Donna, Jason, and now Hank. And, we have to talk about, Grayson as well, because I think if anyone has been done a disservice in this show, besides Batman, given how this show has treated them, I think Grayson is probably the secondary character that this show has done a little bit of a disservice to. Maybe he's tied with Red Hood, with how they did Red Hood. I feel like those two have been the most wronged this season, just with some of the things that they're pulling. Jed is saying he doesn't want his loved ones getting killed because of him. Yeah, and that might be having him over course correct in terms of some of the decisions he made. Although what he did with Connor made no sense, because if anyone had more of a chance of getting killed, as we saw, it was Grayson. Chanel, thanks for joining us in the live chat. Chanel is saying there was so much they could have done better this whole season. Agreed. So, my overall grade is a B-. I didn't hate this episode. I actually think it's probably the third better one of it. It's kind of bizarre to me to know that we only have 2 episodes left before this season's over. And that to me is the disservice that all of this has taken so long to get to, in my opinion. But let's talk about the things that actually happened, right? Okay, so I got my notes because I had to write notes with this, because oh boy, wasn't there a lot. Okay, so there was kind of 4 main plot lines, right? There was Tim and Donna, there was Grayson and Connor, there was Starfire, and then there was the Crane and Red Hood situation. So, let's talk about that. Trent is giving me side eye for giving it a B-, and that's okay, Trent. We're going to talk it through. Don't hate me. We're going to talk it through. Icky is saying, I truly don't get what the point the armor was for if they can keep getting shot. Yeah. Tamranians getting shot is ridiculous. It is pretty ridiculous that they get shot. And there are certain things that this show does in taking liberties. Bannon is saying the Crane montage was totally unnecessary. It was very silly too. I mean, I didn't mind the don't go chasing waterfall situation. I think on a better show, it might have worked if that was the kind of tone, but this show has been kind of lopsided with tone. So it just seemed like, what are we doing here? And this is another thing where, this show, I mean, it was unnecessary. I agree. It was unnecessary for the fact that it takes plot. I didn't think it was bad necessarily. It got how ridiculous this character has gone. But I think if anything, it just kind of was like, okay, we did this instead of, I don't know, giving a little bit more time to Rachel and Gar and things like that. And I also forgot about Rachel and Gar. I wrote down, so much stuff was happening. Rachel and Gar were also a plot line, although they were kind of a plot point more than a plot line in this episode. Red Eyes joining us in the chat. Always a pleasure, Red Eyes. I'm very curious to see what you thought about this episode. Okay, so let's talk about some of the things that happen. All right. So the Tim and Donna situation, let's take it piece by piece. The Tim and Donna situation, they are emerging as they're emerging as one of my favorite duos. I kind of have favorite duos in this show. It's usually Rachel and Cory. That's probably my favorite duo is Rachel and Cory, just because the banter, the mother-daughter kind of vibe that they have, things like that. So I just kind of love that. And we haven't gotten that all season. I'm hoping I get a glimpse of that before this season is done. But in terms of emerging, I think Donna and Tim are quite endearing, and I enjoyed that. So basically what happened with them this episode, right, is that Crane seems to be planning something. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I have really no idea what Crane is actually planning. They say it, we get tidbits, but I don't really understand it necessarily, because what we find out, because thankfully, Tim's dad is still alive. He got shot. A lot of Black people got shot this season, y'all. I think all the Black people got shot this season. I'm counting like 4. Not to make it racial, but it just seemed like all the Black people was getting shot. Tim, his dad, Cory, Calm. Yeah. So, Tim's parents are still alive. Donna finds Tim because Donna is trying to figure out where the rest of her team is. Where are the Titans? And because Wi-Fi is down, and I don't know, you would just think with alien technology and everything that they've got, that they would have figured out a way to have a better communication service between them all, that if all the city got shut down, that they'd still be able to communicate, especially Batman of all people. I find it very hard that Batman never came up with something that if by chance Wi-Fi was down or the towers, that they still wouldn't be able to communicate. But I digress. Or maybe I'm addressing another plot hole, right? Anyway, so we find out that they are, that it's kind of anarchy going on, and that basically Crane has a lot of the cops in his pocket, and they are basically checking some of the holdouts that haven't, I guess, gone over to Crane's side or haven't kind of descended into madness, and checking in on them, because there's a plan, it seems like, that Crane wants to take out the strongholds, whatever that means. I guess the strongholds are any person that's still in their house. I don't understand what the end game is, why Crane needs to take over some of the parts of the city. I'm not sure. The GDP, Gotham police basically just, there's nothing, they're not doing anything. Half of them are in the pocket of Crane. They're totally useless, right? So instead of Donna and Tim eventually connecting with the Titans, what we get is kind of this separate plot story where, Donna decides, as a leader, that she's going to lead these civilians to defend themselves against the corrupt police, which is fine. It's a contrived point, I think, because and this is one of the 2 contrived points, right? They needed to make it so Nightwing had no help against Red Hood, right? I mean, that's clearly where they needed this to go, but they had to explain why Donna didn't end up meeting up with him and why Connor doesn't go with him, right? So what they do is they put Donna with Tim and make her make the decision to stay with the civilians. Okay. Instead of eventually connecting with her. I mean, it's contrived a bit. I didn't mind it. I thought it was okay. I think it was cool seeing Tim's bat cave and everything. I thought it was very funny when they said the thing about, oh, I thought we had rice down here. I thought that was funny. Tim is continuing to be, to me, a great addition to the show. I think he's gotten enough of a balance too. I know there's been talk where some people liked him, some people don't like him. Some people think they kind of rope him into the whole Bat Fam thing where they're just like, here's another Bat Family character. But Tim is, he does eventually become a Titan. So he's not necessarily just, solely Bat Fam, right? And I do think, if you think about it, for the first good chunk of the season, we did not see Tim. So it's not like he's like Barbara or Red Hood or Crane, where they've just been in our faces for most of the season. That's not the case with Tim. So I'm not tired of Tim. And I like the way that they're kind of showing us his capabilities. The fact that he can put together technology. He's a great detective. And I think it's good that they're pointing this out so that, you see a reasoning for him being an asset to the team. That's something they didn't really do with Jason, unfortunately. They never really explained what he added. And I think that's important because when you have a character that has no powers, they better darn sure be good at something else, if you ask me. If not, I mean, that's why Batman is one of the most essential characters of the Justice League and stuff, right? Because he is so intelligent and so able to kind of figure things out and come up with technology. If he wasn't that, you'd be like, why is Batman there? You know what I mean? And I think it's good that they're really establishing this with Tim. And let me know what y'all think. Are y'all tired of Tim at this point? Do you think it's a little contrived? Did you think it was contrived what they did with making Donna stay behind as opposed to making her end up finding Dick somehow? Bannon is saying the whole Crane plot line is very murky. Bannon is saying, agreed, I liked him more and more, and I am not sad to see him join the show. Trent is saying Tim is a Bat Family character. I get you, Trent. He is, but he also did join, didn't he? I think he did. Tim joins the Titans. I mean, I totally get you. There's no way Barbara Gordon should not be on this show. I like Savannah, I like the actress, but she shouldn't be on this show. Come on. She shouldn't be there. Crane didn't need to be a villain. Street level villains make no sense on this show with the kind of team we have. But I do think Tim is essential. I think, and I will say the reason why I say Tim is essential is because of what they did to Jason. It's because Jason should have been kind of what Tim was, kind of that younger guy under, Grayson for a bit, learning, having his own thing that he adds to the team. And instead they made Jason just always become this rebellious teen who just never wanted to listen, to the point where you did think he was kind of baggage he was more of a hindrance than a help to the team. And I think Tim has the potential to be a help given his skill set. Solomon is saying Tim is definitely a highlight of this season. I'm excited to see more of him. Agreed. Van is saying, no, I thought the Connor part was more contrived than Donna. That made sense. Solomon saying, I'm still wondering why the series keeps neutering their superpower Titans so that Dick and Jason can shine. We got to talk about that, but it's a number of reasons. I feel like I've talked about that, about why, but yeah. But yeah, the Tim and Donna plot was solid. It'll be interesting to see what Donna does. Although I am a little sad because I do think it's kind of like we could have had a reunion. And once again, this show has a tendency to do a thing where the Titans are together in the beginning, somewhere in the middle, they all split up, and then we get them all together in like the last episode. And it's kind of like wash, rinse, repeat. And I don't understand why they can't have it so that they are consistently together. That's been a thing for them this whole time with this show. And it just, I just feel like it's kind of this limiting of ability to write storylines without making it so that the team can't be together. The team can be together, And I just think that's silly. Red Eye saying, I like Donna staying behind because let's be honest, Tim and his cousin would get slaughtered without her help. Very much so. That's very true. Bannon is saying, actually, the team we have is sidelined by Dick constantly. So yeah, Crane is perfect for Nightwing. Yeah, that's true. To what Red Eyes is saying, I do think you're right about that, but that's where I guess I think the contrived aspect comes in at, right? I don't understand Crane's plot line in the sense of why he needs to go to the holdouts of people who are just basically trying to, all Tim's parents have is a restaurant. Why are the cops trying to take over houses and restaurants? What exactly is he trying to achieve? You know what I mean? And I don't understand that. So it's kind of like that plot then makes it so, yes, Donna needs to stay behind, but we also have to question, why is that a plot? Why is Crane doing that necessarily, right? Trey is saying, now, do you agree we may need new writers? I think we need some new writers. I definitely agree. Let me know what y'all think in the chat. I know there's been calls for a new showrunner for a bit now. No shade. I don't want to throw shade to people who do this creative endeavors, but Okay, I have thrown shade, and I'll keep throwing it, I guess. It's not really shade. It's constructive criticism, I think, because I don't think I've said anything that's just been like, oh, I just don't like it. I feel like, and I think many of you have explained the reasoning why certain things don't work and certain things do, and why we need more of the things that do work. And I kind of had hope that they had listened in season 2, after season 2. And I think in some cases they did. And I think in other cases they leaned right back into the thing that they did. But I will argue, like when it comes to the Bat family situation where people are like, why don't they focus on the Titans? Why don't they focus on the Titans? I agree with you. They totally should, because the Titans is popular enough that they could totally focus on them. There's a reason why season 1 did as well as it did, right? And then for whatever reason, they just shucked a lot of that out and did what they did in season 2. And it was like, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? People liked season 1. People liked where they were going with it. And then they just decided not to do, just kind of like bring in all these other Titans before the Titans we had. And it was more about, Grayson again. It just was like, why? And, we thought they listened, and then they kind of listened, and then we got more of the same. And I feel like some of it is, the behind the scenes stuff. Warner Brothers has a tendency to feel like Batman is like their most popular property. And because of that, they want everything to be touched by Batman in some kind of regard, unless it's like Doom Patrol or something where it's his own little kind of unique show. And so because of that, we get more of the Bat family stuff. But I would also argue, although I think there are plenty of us saying we want more Titans, unfortunately or fortunately, I'm not going to, question anyone's place in the fandom. There are people who like the Bat family stuff in Titans. There are genuinely people who, as soon as Grayson or Jason is not on screen, they are saying, oh, I'm so bored this episode. And it's like, wait a minute, what? And to those people, I think many of us have said, you're watching the wrong show. Like, if you get bored anytime that there's not a Bat family centric thing, you're watching the wrong show. But they are watching the show. And I think there's a little bit of a duality going on there where I think some of the people listening are paying attention to what some of those people are saying. And they're thinking, well, it can't be all bad. Some of these people like when we focus on this. So they're not seeing that many of us are calling for one thing and are not. Let's see what some of you are saying. Ben is saying, I love this show, but it could be so much more and better. Yeah. Let's see. Paco, thanks for joining us in the chat, Paco. Paco is saying, still don't know why they refuse to use Superboy. Heck, use the dog to get Jason, right? We got to talk about that, right? Paco, you are on the nose with that because, yeah. Red Eyes saying, 1, why is Crane trying to take over the Chinese restaurant? 2, what's the point of Gar and Rachel looking for the pit? 3, why were Titans not allowed to go back to Wayne Manor? Yes, all valid questions, right? And yes, constructive writer shade. That is a thing, Red Eyes. It very much is. So, the Tim Donner thing was fine. And as we're saying, I just think it's a little contrived Crane's plan. And that's what had to have Donna have to stay where she was. Then we had Gar and Rachel. Speaking of Gar and Rachel were looking for the Lazarus Pit. I don't know why they were looking for the Lazarus Pit. For whatever reason, Gar has it in his mind that this may be the key to something. But Jason already got brought back. And unless you're creating a thing where you're trying to say that if you maybe put him back in it, maybe his conscience was come back or something like that. If that's not where you're going, that, yes, it's true. The lore is people come out of the Lazarus Pit a bit different. And they do. We've seen that. I mean, that's how it was supposed to be with Red Eyes, with Red Hood from, the show, right? But that's not what they're saying here, right? So if that is the case, why are they looking for this thing? To just know where it's at? You're separated from your team. And even, Rachel, and I love Rachel. I'm so happy to have her back. Rachel is saying to Gar, shouldn't we find Dick and Cory? Now, kudos also to Rachel knowing she needs to find her mom and dad, who are Dick and Cory, because those are her parents. So she's like, we need to find Cory and Dick. We need to go find them. And Gar's just like, well, I think we'd be better, separated for now because the whole city doesn't like us. Makes no sense. that made no sense. And them having Gar say that was just so dumb to me. I don't understand. They have characters say things that make no sense in order to kind of justify our plotting. And that's not okay. Gar has no reason to say we're better off separated. Gar has no idea what happened to the rest of his team. Last time he checked, Com got shot. Cory walked off. Connor, he left when they were still being, overtaken. How does he know they're all right? Why would Gar just be like, yo, it's okay if we're all separate? Makes no sense. Made no sense. It only made sense because they needed, the writers I'm talking about, they needed Gar and Rachel to go on their own journey. Fine, whatever. So then they start looking for the pit. And conveniently, Rachel and Gar find the pit just as Grayson gets shot. So I think we all can guess what's probably going to happen. I don't even understand why it has to happen. Maybe Grayson gets put into the pit. I honestly don't even think he needs to be, because once again, Rachel is right there. Yeah, she couldn't bring back Donna for reasons created by the writers, but she can totally bring back people. So, and I love the fact that they have it so Rachel and Dick are still very much connected to each other. That's family. And I see her bringing him back. That's why I wasn't too upset about him getting shot, because I'm like, well, I don't think this is gonna last. Let's see. Ben is saying, love how Rachel is more in control of her powers. Yeah. Solomon is saying, why I love seeing Gar and Rachel's banter. Their quest for the Lazarus puddle was nonsense. Yes, the puddle. It's not even the pit, it's the puddle, right? And so, it was kind of like, you never really get a real sense of why Gar thinks it's super important, unless he just wants confirmation that that's how Jason came back. Because like we said last live stream, we know Jason came back because of the pit. They don't necessarily know that he came back. So, but the thing is, even if you needed to figure out how he came back, is that really your top priority right now and not finding the rest of your team? Seems a little silly. But yeah, Rachel found it just in time. And I also thought it was very interesting that Gar points out that the bats kept following him. He was like, they just keep following me. And I think that's very interesting. Do you all think that we're going to have Gar turn into a bat soon enough? That would be interesting. Him turning into something other than the tiger. I love the tiger, but it's ridiculous that they have also nerfed his powers, that he only has turned into one animal this time. Still 2 years later, it's ridiculous. So yeah, I don't know. Do y'all think that that's gonna do you think that's going to have some kind of connection to the situation where Grayson had got shot? Let me know. Paco is saying, maybe with Rachel, they can reverse the insanity effect of the pit. That's what Paco, that's my thought process too, because I said, I'm like, we know in the comics that the Lazarus pit, when people come back from it, it throws them off. We know that from the comics. The issue is this show never really emphasized that being a thing. And the way they've dealt with Jason is, frankly, they've made it so that the reason why he was doing what he was doing originally was because of the drugs. And then when it wasn't the drugs, it was the manipulation by Crane. And now we don't even know why he's doing it. So it's not really, they haven't really emphasized that it's the Lazarus pit. And unless they do that, they might throw it in at the very end, because to me that does make the most sense, but they haven't set it up for that. They should, but they haven't. Jed is saying, please make him, Gar, turn into something other than a bloody tiger. Yes. Red Eyes saying, Gar turning into anything isn't in the budget. And that doesn't make any sense. They are on HBOMax got money. Okay, they got money. We've seen that they got money. It doesn't make any sense that he can't turn into a friggin' green monkey. They can't bring in a monkey. Come on, that's in the budget. Because all you gotta do is green that thing over. They wildin'. CGI, come on. Trent is saying a bat before a monkey, a bat because of Batman. I feel like Trent has had enough of everything Batman related. Trent is like, no, if he turns into a bat because of Batman, I am done. I feel like that's what we're going to get, though. Because they really have made it a point for Gar, because he said it this past episode. He said, these bats keep following me. I think he's going to turn into a bat, y'all, or he's going to be able to control a bat or something. I see it happening. Let's see what some of y'all saying. Jared, thanks for joining, Jared. Jared saying, sorry, I'm a bit late. No worries. Is this a justice for Cory's storyline support group? Because I'm tired of her amnesia storyline again from season 1. It is a support group. We're going through this. We're going through the episode, Jared, but we're definitely Gerard. But Gerard, we're definitely going to talk about Cory's thing because we all need the support. Bannon is saying, speaking of budgets, Cory's homeworld, I have seen better alien worlds on Star Trek, the original series. Shade. Red Eye saying, if Stargirl can do Green Lantern and the Shade on a CW budget, Titans can do more regard. They really can. And that's why the whole it's not in the budget thing makes no sense, right? Okay, so, we talked about Gar and Rachel, a very convenient thing of them finding the Lazarus pit. And most likely, let me know in the chat and also on the replay, y'all. Do y'all think they're going to end up having to put Grayson in the pit? Let me know. Do you think Dick is going in the pit? And do you want him to go in the pit? Yeah, let's see. I don't want him to go in the pit, just to be honest, because I don't know. I feel like they may try to, suddenly use the whole thing of the Lazarus pit causing insanity. And we don't need another thing of Grayson going through that. Just let the guy have a rest, okay? He don't need to go into the pit. Let Rachel heal him. She is capable of healing people. I don't know why they decided to not let her do that with Donna. Well, I do know because they wanted episode 9. But if she can do that, she does not need the pit she does not need this pit to heal him. And I hope maybe there's a choice she makes where she's like the pit or me trying. And I hope Rachel believes in herself enough to say, I'm going to do it myself. I just hope that's what they do because we don't need that. We really don't need it. But let me know what you all think. Whether or not that's going to happen. Okay, so let's talk about. We're going to get to Starfire because I got a lot to say about Starfire. So that's why I'm taking some of these other plot lines a bit quicker. Okay, so let's talk about who's left. Let's talk about Crane. What did y'all think of that "Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls" thing? What did you think of him getting a whole friggin' montage, Pretty Woman style, of him cleaning himself up in the Wayne Manor? I don't know. I didn't mind it. I thought it was cute. I mean, I laughed. And that's probably because I like Doom Patrol. So I like that sort of weird kind of thing that shows can do. But it was so out there. And it was just like, do we need more explanation of Craneness? I felt like the whole thing with him cutting his face was kind of them. I don't know if Titans don't have the permission to use the actual Scarecrow mask or something because it's there. So they showed it. So I don't see why he can't put it on. It'd be so much better if he just put on his mask. But okay, so I will say there were some parts of this Crane thing I did not dislike. I didn't love it because I think he's sucking up a lot of air. But I didn't hate it, right? First and foremost, I will still continue to say that no more street level villains. This is ridiculous. I was just watching the old Batman animation series, the one I grew up on in the 90s. And I love that series. So great. It's on HBOMax. If any of y'all, all the stuff of Batman is on HBOMax if y'all want to watch it. I was actually watching Suicide Squad Hell to Pay, the animated movie, yesterday. But I was watching Batman and there's a Scarecrow episode. I specifically went and rewatched the Scarecrow episode because I wanted to remind myself, because I'm like, I know I'm not crazy that Batman by himself was able to take down Scarecrow in one 22-minute episode. I am not nuts. This wasn't even a 2-parter. And this dude was doing scaredass around the city. And I was confirmed to be right, per usual. I was confirmed to be right. No, it was confirmed I was right. And for whatever reason, this has taken weeks with Titans. Makes no sense. No sense whatsoever. It was a great episode, but it made no sense that we're doing this with Titans for this long when I know Crane does not take this long. He's one of okay villains. He is. The other iterations of him, not this one. But it does not take that long to deal with him. It really does not. Yeah, Bannon is saying it was disrespectful to the Batcave and Wayne Manor. It was, but he's a villain, so I'm not expecting him, to not, to not do those things. Trant is saying Crane has reminded me of a man-child these last couple of these episodes. He has, and I feel like they went with that for a reason, right? Solomon is saying this series is making me hate one of my favorite Batman villains. He went from Scarecrow to Hugo Strange to Victor Zsasz. Very much so. Red Eye saying best episode of Batman, the animated series, is when Dick punched Bruce in the face and quit. Yeah. Paco is saying poor pizza guy. Yes, poor pizza guy. He didn't deserve that. It was so stupid. It was just another way to show just how depraved Crane is. And I'm like, we don't need to do that. I mean, it's kind of like my whole thing of how, in horror movies, how they always have it so the killer does something to one of the animals, like a dog or a cat or something. I hate that. I hate it. And I always say, we already know your villain is a villain. It's cool. He already killed a person here and there. You don't need to remind us by having him kill the dog. I say that with Crane too. We already know this guy is a villain and bad. We don't need a montage of him singing "Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls." We don't need him cutting out the intestines of the pizza guy. Like what? Now, what they have made him do, it's very clear with Crane that they're making it seem like he has some type of multiple personality thing going on, right? A little bit of a Norman Bates kind of thing going on with him, of his mother, and the situation of, not being able to do it as Crane. He always has to do it as Scarecrow. I loved the Batman foul on him. Batman's fouls on... This is the one thing they got right in this show when it came to Batman. His fouls, the way he is able to read other people for filth. Batman is... If you're talking about someone who knows shade, it is Batman. He always knows people's stuff, which is why, once again, it makes no sense, the road and the spiral that they have him on in this show, because he is so good at seeing everyone's stuff, including his own. Batman is very secure in knowing he's a damaged person. That's not news to him. And this show made it seem like it was news to Batman that he was a damaged person. It's not news to him. He knows, because he knows everyone else is damaged too, right? And so I loved when Crane was listening to Batman's foul on him and how his face changes, because it's like, yeah, he just read you for filth. He knows the type you are. He was like, you don't like confrontation. You hide behind the Scarecrow. And so what we eventually got was Crane saying, no, like, because he says to Jason, that's good, losing the mask. Like, I lost the mask, and now there's no need for mask because I am now Scarecrow, right? He's fully become Scarecrow. That's why he cut his face. He doesn't need a mask anymore because he is Scarecrow. Fine. Okay. Didn't make much sense to me. It was a whole thing with the pizza guy. Also just didn't make much sense to me. I mean, it made sense for what they were trying to do. I just don't know why they're trying to do it. I don't really know why we're prolonging this thing with Crane. Calm wasn't even on. And we were told that she would be she'd be the villain of the second half of the season. And we are in episode 11. We've been lied to. They switched it up. That's not what's happening. Crane has been our main villain this whole season. And that was not earned at all. There's no reason. It's all been contrived to keep this guy the main villain. Makes no sense. Yeah. Bannon is saying, but is it multiple personality Two-Face? Then why not just have Two-Face? Why not have Two-Face, right? They needed to have Crane because they needed to get the situation with Red Hood going, because they needed to give an excuse for why Red Hood would do that stuff. And Two-Face don't do drugs, right? Two-Face doesn't do the gas thing. So that's why we got Crane. I would have preferred Two-Face. That would have made more sense. He has more of a organized crime thing going on. That would have made more sense to me. But yeah, so that's what we got with Crane. Let me know. Are you tired of Crane? I can guess what your answers are going to be. What do you think about this turn that they've given him? The whole cutting of his face. So he has now embodied Crane. He's no longer having the passive type of not being, who he is and embracing the full villain, right? Okay, he is fully Scarecrow now. He is no longer just Crane. I don't know if we needed that. I feel like he had been doing the Crane and Scarecrow thing for most of this season. I don't know why we needed the evolution, but they gave it to us. Okay, so that's that. Red Eyes and saying, to your point, Chauncey, when you said Superboy could have ended this in episode 2, Connor said that to Dick when he wanted to confront Jason alone. He did. And we're going to talk about that. So now we have Dick and Connor. Okay, so Dick and Connor, not much to say. What we have heard on the interwebs, if you have been paying attention, that there was an anonymous, I don't know how true this source is, but people were saying that supposedly Dick was supposed to drink the water, and that got cut. That Dick was supposed to drink the water in the original script, and that was supposed to kind of justify his actions for why he took the kryptonite, for why he did that to Connor, for why he decided he could go alone. But they cut that scene, or they cut that aspect from the actual final script, or from the final editing or whatever, so you don't know that he's taken the water. Whether or not that is true, I think it would still have been contrived. Let's just call a spade a spade. The reason why Connor and Krypto were given the kryptonite was so that we want to end this thing with Jason. That's the whole reason. It's the reason why neither Cory or Connor or Donna have been allowed to even be in the same vicinity as Crane or Jason since all of this began, because they needed to prolong this season for some reason as them being the villains. So it's all contrived. I didn't care for Connor. I didn't care for Dick doing that to Connor. I'm glad Connor said what we all were saying in the room of why doesn't he let him do it? It made no sense. You could argue that maybe Dick was scared that Connor would kill Jason, and so he didn't want him to do that. So he wanted to just kind of have him hang back. Still didn't make much sense. Maybe, Dick still has his over left things of, I don't want to do this as a team, which still also doesn't make sense. You can't have this person evolve and then make him make really major decisions as though he didn't evolve. You did a whole thing in season 2 of him accepting himself as a team mate. You can't have him regress just so you can keep your plot points going. It really doesn't make any sense. Had Donna or Connor been there, Dick wouldn't have gotten shot. They make it so neither of them are there so he can get shot. I mean, that's all you can say about that plot point. It wasn't a plot line, it was a plot point. They needed to get Dick shot. And you can't do that if Connor is allowed to be around with him. So that's what we got, right? Solomon is saying, I call BS. Dick has been a dick to the Titans way before the water plot began. You're right. Gerard is saying, Crane as the main villain is long and drawn out. I'm a bit bored of him. They should have added more villains like Stargirl, but with the fearsome 5. Exactly. There are Titans villains who can totally, keep, things going and exciting, but for whatever reason they choose to kind of keep this overarching plot line with Titans, and I don't really feel like they need to do that either. There's no reason to have to keep an overarching plot line, but they've done that. They even did that in season 1. There's always an overarching plot line, and I'd be fine if like every few episodes, like maybe each team member is going through their own personal stuff, and then every like episode is a new villain or something, or a new plot line with a villain. You can do that too. I mean, I don't know why they keep doing that. It doesn't make much sense to me, but that's where we're at. Bannon is saying it would have been less contrived for Connor to be out fighting Blackfire, not with Dick. And I don't see how Connor could ever trust Dick again. Exactly. And I feel like it'd be a real disservice if they don't have that be addressed, that Connor tells him, you straight up use kryptonite on me. Like, that's whack. Like, why'd you do that? And yes, it would have made more sense. Maybe Connor's like, screw Red Hood. I'm going to go find Calm. Like I'm going to go, use my power of hearing to see if I hear her in the city or something. You know what I mean? Like that would have made more sense than him needing to do that. But I guess they needed to have Connor completely out of the picture, because even if he was looking for Calm, who's to say he shouldn't have been like, I'm going to go for search for Red Hood and end this, right? I'm going to go to Wayne Manor and end this. And yeah, people have asked, why didn't they go to Wayne Manor? They also had Dick say something like, yeah, we can't go to Wayne Manor because the cops and something. It was not a good reason why they couldn't go and take Wayne Manor. It really wasn't. Once again, just a contrived thing to give Crane his montage. And I just, it's silly. I mean, it would have made sense for all of them to go back to the manor. You all get divided. Why not go back to your one place of home, right? Makes sense to me, but they had to make it contrived. So that's where we that's where we're at. Red Eye saying, if anything, that plot would have made sense if he did drink the water. It would have. He would have had to play it a little differently as someone who drank the water, but this is what we got. Trans saying they don't want to make a Titan show. They want a Batman show. Yeah, one could argue. Okay, so let's get to it, y'all. And the thing, Dick got shot. I don't think he's going to die. I just worry they're going to put him in the pit, and I'd rather Rachel just heal him. So we'll figure out that. But let's talk about what is the controversy of this episode, which is Cory's plot line. Y'all, we got to talk about Cory's plot line. And, many of you, have had your issues with Cory's plot line, right? And where we went with this. I want to put up a picture of Starfire using her power, her green power. Sometimes it's pink, sometimes it's, golden, but, she has, used these powers. And what we found out this episode is that, let's just be honest, that's a picture of Starfire. I'll show it a little bit more so y'all can see it. That Starfire using her, I guess it's more canon that her powers tend to be green. I feel like that's from the beginning that her powers are green. And then sometimes, depending on what iteration, it goes back and forth. And I want to say that now, because I know a lot of the debate has been them changing the color. A lot of people have had some issues with the fact that her color seems to be blue now. Okay, fine. But that's a picture of our girl doing thing. And then what we saw was our other girl, Anna, marvelous. She did such a great job this episode. She really is always a standout. She steals every scene she's in. She's such a great actress. And she really gave in terms of her struggle with Starfire this episode. And so, what we got was finding out that, she finds the woman that she's been having visions about. And I do need to talk about that because I don't understand why she had to have visions about someone she doesn't know for the visions, but that's what happened. And we find out, long story short, we find out that Cory never really had the powers that she really, like, those powers weren't hers. She was seemingly born without powers. Her parents, more so her father, made the decision to take her younger sister's powers of the sun and all that and give it to Cory. Now, Cory, and having lost her powers, or more so the powers that she had, going back to their rightful owner, Calm, didn't have power. She gets shot. I don't know what's the point of that suit if they can get shot. Is it just fashion? I don't get it. She gets shot, but then we find out that her powers come in. And it's like, oh my gosh, it looked glorious. I don't really care for the blue, but it looked glorious. Her powers not only heal her, but kill the other guy. And she floats, and it's like massive. And what Cory ends up saying at the end, because the woman asked her, are these new powers? And Cory says, no, they've been in me all this time, the real me. So what we got was essentially a change in Cory's origin from the comics. Now, I know some people are like, oh my gosh, why would you do that? I get it. I want to start off by saying, though, and y'all know Cory's my girl, so y'all know this ain't coming from me trying to lick any boots of the people who run this show. If you were going to get mad at origin stories being changed and stuff, we probably should have gotten mad in season 1. Now, I know we didn't get mad in season 1 because we loved season 1 for the most part. But if you were going to get mad at the way they switched up Cory's stuff, you probably should have done that in season 1, right? Because they changed her whole like prequel before she got to Earth. Now, mind you, I didn't need her ended up in slavery and stuff, which is what happened in the comics. Because what happened in the comics, her comic book origin is that she was a princess. She was the second born. She wasn't the first one. That was something they changed. And her sister being mad because she couldn't fly. Her parents overlooked her for Cory, got mad, joined up with the Citadel or whatever this grouping was that likes to take over other planets, and basically put Cory in enslavement for years, dealing with atrocious things. They end up battling, they get new powers or whatever, they escape. Cory goes down to Earth. But before that, she had been a slave. Her sister had already, it was a whole thing. Cory had baggage, right, of what she had dealt with. They totally got rid of that. That didn't happen. And one can argue, yes, that's okay that they got rid of it, but they also took away a little bit of her inner conflict of, she came from basically just, having gone through slavery and stuff and everything to basically being something of a princess who's used to getting her way and comes down to Earth because she went on a mission, but decided to kind of stay because she liked it here. Right. So that was one thing where it's kind of like, why did they make her do that? So that was season 1, y'all. So am I surprised that they did this in season 3? Well, considering that they've been playing wild and loose with Cory's origins and stuff since season 1, no, I am not surprised that they, changed all of that. I don't even think it's a bad thing necessarily that they changed all of it. I think, and I say this, and when I was on Twitter, I did a little thread, but I want to reiterate it here. This show emphasizes internal conflict. This show can't seem to write for level-headed, well-adjusted characters. That's not their jam on this show, for better or worse. If you want to get any kind of shine on this show, you need to have some type of internal conflict baggage, because that's what these writers seem to like to write about. It's not a coincidence that they've been playing up Connor's Lex side, y'all, okay? Pay attention to that. It's not a coincidence, because they want to give Connor internal conflict. So they're making this whole thing of him having issues with his Lex side a thing, because that's what they do. It's another reason why suddenly it's such an issue that Donna's a half-breed or whatever it's called, whatever they called, Connor called himself. But they also have Donna also kind of considering herself that, where she was talking to Lydia saying, you've always, because I'm not full Amazon, and, now you need to lead. Internal conflict, right? Internal conflict. We see the same thing with Jason. We see the same thing. Oh my gosh, we see it so much with Grayson. They don't write for, we even see it with Crane. Crane can't just be a villain who wants to just cause chaos. He has to have mommy issues. This show only wants to write a character if they have internal baggage, because whatever reason they think that's sexier than having a well-adjusted character dealing with the things that happen to them. It is one of the reasons why I think we don't get Gar focus. It also happened with Rachel. Rachel got a lot of focus in season 1 because she was dealing with the internal conflict of whether or not she was evil on the inside. You saw that once that got dealt with, in season 2, she took a back seat, right? Because no longer did she have so much internal conflict. That's what this show does. So to me, it was a given that if we were going to get Cory focus, they were going to have to give her some internal conflict. And they just laid it out. They made it so her whole childhood was a lie. Everything she thought she knew about her parents, about Calm, about how she grew up, about who she was, they made it a lie. How is that not? That's internal conflict. In order for this show to want to write for her, they had to give her some damage. And I hate to say it, but that's what they did. They gave her damage. They gave her internal baggage. And I guess it was kind of like the lesser evil. I want more focus on Cory. And I know on this show, since they can't seem to write anybody who is well-adjusted and just kind of living their best life, that they were going to have to give her an internal problem. And that's what we got. And that is why I did not have a problem with that, in the sense of, if this is what they got to do to give her a plot line, I'll take it. I'm glad they still kept it so that she's royalty. I would have been more mad at that had they not kept it so that she was royalty. So I was fine with that. She's still royalty. Now she has to deal with what her parents did. But yeah, tell me what you all think about that. Are you do you think I'm bullshit? Do you think I'm just like saying that and you're like, no. It's still bad that they did that. There's no excusing it. Or do you think I kind of make some sense? Let me know. Cause I think I also think it's racial why they sideline our two titans of color, Gar and Cory, for some time. But the secondary thing of that, I think it's because they're well-adjusted, level-headed characters, and they had to give them some kind of conflict. They've been trying to do it with Gar in terms of his power set, but it hasn't been, I don't think they think that's as sexy as Jason and Dick's, daddy issues. So that's where we get, right? Solomon is saying, I don't mind the altered origin, but I hate that the series just swapped Cory and Com's backstories. I'm just someone who loves comic Com's resentment. Well, this is the thing, Solomon. I don't think this is going to get rid of Com's resentment. If anything, wouldn't that make it worse? I mean, I don't know if Com even actually knows this, right? She might not even know. Like, what she told Connor was simply she wasn't born with it. What if she finds out that it was taken from her? That all this time she's been living without powers that she thought she had, and that her parents did that, and that Cory was the one that took it. Now, Cory didn't do it on purpose, but it did happen. Would that not fuel her being really resentful? Now, I also agree that this does kind of take away the rivalry between Com and Cory. But I think we also have to see where they're going to play it out, right? It might Com might find out and be pissed and be like, all this time, I was the rightful person, not because I was older, because she's not in this one, but because I was the one that had the real Tamaran power, not you, right? You have some sort of power. We don't know what it is. Now, this is the other reason why I kind of like this Cory plot line, because I think it's really cool that they have her having some sort of power that is uncharted territory, right? Because they were saying that the power that her parents had, the power that Com had, technically, is power that they've all been used to before. The power that Cory seems to have doesn't seem to be the same power that her parents and Com had. What's this power? And how does she have it? Why is her power different from what her parents were? Why couldn't the witch figure out what her powers were? Why did the witch say she doesn't have anything? Didn't seem to be sensing that she had those powers. What's up with Cory's powers? And I think if the show follows through with this could be really interesting, right? I think this could be really interesting if we kind of deal with the fact that Cory's new powers are uncharted territory. For those of you who are familiar with the comics, you know that Cory and Com got their star bolts and all that stuff, not naturally. They got it because they were getting tested on. They had natural powers for their species and stuff, but the extra powers they got was from experiment. They had got captured and were getting experimented on. I don't know if it was the Citadel that had done it to them, but some other intergalactic, conquerors had got a hold of them and was like pouring ultraviolet rays into both of them. And like Com got massive power and Cory got power too, but Cory broke out before Com did. Com got more power than Cory in that instance, right? And I think what they're doing, they're getting rid of that part and they're making so that whatever Com's more power that she got, Cory naturally already has. Because I think they're taking away the whole thing of the experiment thing. And I just think that's kind of cool that she's going to be having such a power. I don't care for the color, because as you can see from the picture I have up, Cory usually has either green or pink. I think the reason why she doesn't have green is a technical issue. I think it has to do with green screen. I honestly think that's what that is. And they just can't do it as green. Maybe that's also the reason why we don't see Gar a lot, because of the green screen. I don't know. I just think that was just more of a technical thing. And I know some people have said supernovas tend to be blue, and supernovas are like one of the highest parts of a star, right? So I think it's kind of awesome. I know people have some technical issues with the blue, but I'm not against where this could go for her if they follow through. If they follow through, because they can't just give this to us and then it kind of like, oh, she's got new powers, cool. Like, you got to follow through. What does this mean for Cory's life and how she views her childhood, how she views her heritage, right? What's going on with that? Bannon is saying nothing wrong with internal problems, but show them overdone. But the show has overdone them and grow from them, and show that they grow from them, and that they're stronger for it, and don't reset them back into them. Exactly. And I agree. That's what they tend to do with Grayson all the time. Paco is saying by now, most of them should have dealt with their internal conflicts and just have the new villains be the conflict. Oh, I agree. But like I said, I think this show just likes sexy internal conflict more than they like dealing with the external. I don't know if it's a writing preference or what, but Gerard is saying that's a bit embarrassing if they need internal problems in order to write for these characters instead of giving us well-rounded individuals with conflict in order to feel like real people. Oh no, y'all, I am not saying that. I'm not saying this as though it's a good thing. I'm saying that's just what this show, as someone who's a writer, I'm just saying I have peeped this show's patterns when a character, I mean, they did it with Hank and Dove, right? They did it with Hank and Dawn. They totally did it, right? They gave Hank his internal thing of addiction. That was his thing. They gave Dawn her thing of wanting to be a vigilante. They had to have internal conflict for them to get shine. This show likes dealing with broken individuals. That's why they can't allow Grayson to finally be totally over his stuff. That's exactly why Grayson is not allowed to get over his issues. Because if they let him get over his issues completely, I don't know if they know what to do with him. They don't know what to do with characters who are well-adjusted. You know, they just don't. Let's see what some of you all are saying. And before we go further, if you guys have not given this video a like, please do so. You know, share it around. We all love talking stories here. And if you want to show some super chat love, that is always appreciated. But, more so give the video a like, a thumbs up. And if you want to show some super chat love, that's always appreciated here. But let's see what y'all are saying. Antoinette, thanks for joining us in chat. Antoinette saying, agree. The Titan villain should be the conflict. I agree with you. I totally agree with you. But can y'all see what I'm saying about the pattern? Think about it. Think about what they got Connor doing with this Lex mess. Donna with the half Amazon thing. Jason and Crane. They love baggage. Killer Siren, thanks for joining us in chat. Killer Siren is saying, I had a good laugh when Dick died. Karma doesn't miss. This show is terrible, but I can't look away. Like a train wreck, right? You can't look away. Bannon is saying, let them be superheroes. Agreed. Teddy Bear, thanks for joining us. Teddy Bear is saying, I feel they are playing too fast and loose with the development and lore of the characters. I'm also worried if this keeps up, the show may not last long enough to see the well-rounded Titans we know. Well, what we're hearing through the grapevine is that they're supposed to get about 5 seasons. So we'll see what happens. Or they have plans of a 5-season story arc with them. So we'll see what they do in the next 2, right? Ray is saying, thanks for joining us in chat, Ray. Ray is saying they are never going to allow Dick to move past being incredibly lucky and wealthy and successful. Exactly. Because that's how they write it. Red Eye saying, was it just me or was Cory's dad very high class and proper and her mom a little hood? They were a little bit. Yeah, that's my thing. I'm going to tell y'all. I mean, it's definitely a support group because I feel like we were gypped in terms of a Cory-centric season. We really were. And I really do hope they rectify that with season 4 because we were gypped. A whole season of not even Red Hood, a whole season of Scarecrow was not what we signed up for. So I hope they follow this. I hope we get some intergalactic stuff. The Citadel, that was the ones that wanted to take over Tamaran. I hope they come into it. Like maybe they're done with Tamaran and now they want to take over Earth. Wouldn't that be cool if the Citadel comes down and they want to take over Earth and you have to center Cory and Calm, because they know about these people and stuff, and them having an onslaught, and maybe they recruit other villains from Earth, promising them, riches and stuff if they help them take over Earth. Wouldn't that be awesome? That would be huge, but also manageable. There's so many things they can do with this show that can get them away from the street level mess and really utilizing all the characters, making it so all the characters are necessary, and you don't have to make Connor pass out or Donna be at the other end of the city or Starfire conveniently lose her powers. I will also say this and I don't think they did this on purpose because I don't want to give them this much credit, but let's say that we weren't supposed to completely ignore what happened with Starfire last season when her powers started going on the fritz when Calm showed up. If we keep that as canon, I would argue that the reason why her power started on the fritz last season was because it sensed their rightful owner being around. And that's why her powers have been on the fritz, because her powers were never her own. And because they were never her own, they were never quite reliable. That's what I'm giving them that's how I'm going to think about this, so that it makes more sense to me. Let me know if y'all agree with that. But that, to me, is the only thing that makes sense for why her powers kept frizzing in and out last season, if that they weren't really her powers to begin with. So, Ray is saying, only one I'm okay with being so baggage heavy is Raven, because that is part of her character. The rest of them are so Debbie Downers. Solomon saying, see where you're coming from. It sounds like forced melodrama, even though the Titans have had their team dramas before. Exactly. That's what it is. And I think it speaks to the range of, what they really want to do with these characters, unfortunately, and I do think we can get beyond the forced melodrama, but this is how they choose to write for these characters. Red Eye saying, instead of Calm hating Cory for something that wasn't her fault, I would like to see the two of them go back home to find out about Cory's new powers. Then she can turn on her. Exactly. I mean, you can still make it so Calm can be the villain. She could love her sister, but she could love power more. And if she ends up linking up with people like the Citadel, which is who she linked up with in the comics, then you can still have the same hint of the same plot line that was so awesome in the comics, that Calm still chooses power over her family. You can still have her do it. It's not off the table if they still want to do it, even with this whole change. And with Cory's new powers, I see the potential of Cory's new powers, and I'm kind of excited to see what she might be able to do if she starts exploring it. And I hope we get to see on screen her have the conversation with her teammates about her new powers, and that is not something that they talk about off screen. I hope they really do get to kind of say, hey, what was that? Yeah, Ben is saying, I don't think the writers and showrunner, know what they want to do with these characters. I think they have an idea. I just don't think we like it. I think they do. I think they have an idea. I think they have an idea who they want to focus on and what they want to do. I just don't think we like it. And I think they're being a little stubborn in course correcting that, unfortunately. But yeah, y'all, that is my overall thoughts. I did not hate the change in the Starfire situation, mainly because I see the potential there, but that can totally change if, that can totally change if they kind of squander it, if they make us go through this whole plot line to just not do anything with it. Solomon is saying, I'm curious, do you think the show overall would be better if every character was the same age as Tim, Rachel, and Jason? Some of their characters of 20-something are very childish. Maybe if they were all around the same age, it would justify some of the choices, but I don't think we'd get some of the cooler things that we get to see if they were like teenagers. So I'm fine with them being their ages. I think the show just needs to be better at being more consistent with the writing. Ray is saying, Calm family chose power over her. This whole plot really redeems Calm as a character, and the cards she has been dealt. I don't know if it redeems her, because she still killed her parents. I mean, it kind of sucks they took her powers, but she still killed them. And she still killed Fide. She still killed him. She killed some people. I don't know if that redeems her. You've been wrong. Plenty of people have been wrong. I don't know if that redeems people to just kill people. And we still don't know who she linked up with. Calm told us last episode, in episode 10, that she had unfinished business. Who does she have unfinished business with? Where is she going? We don't know who she's working with. We don't know what kind of dealing she made. So we'll see. But yeah, y'all, that's my overall thoughts. Let me know in the comment section your thoughts. Do you agree with me on what I'm saying when it comes to Cory, when it comes to where they're going? And what do you hope we see going forward? We got 2 more episodes left in this season. What are you hoping to see? And what are you hoping we don't see? I'm really curious about that. I hope we get the emergence of a new villain somewhere. I wouldn't mind if they left off on a cliffhanger, but I don't think we will. They like to kind of wrap everything up at the end of the season for some reason, even though it's not really justified. But I'd be down. But let me know your thoughts and your hopes. But as always, thank you all for joining me as I deep dive into Titans. It is therapeutic to talk to you all about this show because this show can get your blood pressure up. So stay creepy out there. It's the month of Halloween. Go watch some horror movies. And until next time, keep watching Titans. Don't give up just yet. They might turn it around. We don't know. I don't know. Talk to you guys later.